Welcome back once again. Okay, so this episode I talked with Samantha Whiteye, and she has a vast knowledge of the topic that we're going to get into, and I really want to save it for you to just hear her explain it because it sounds way better when she explains everything. So I just want to let everyone listen to that as we get started in this. So I hope everyone's doing well, hope everyone's doing great, and here's another episode that I'd like to bring in, and so far so good. I think the episodes are turning out really great, and I just want everyone to know. So without further ado, why not we just jump into the episode right now, that we can get into it.
Go as we go, I guess.
Okay.
All right, so you ready?
Let me go through my introduction one more time here.
Okay, it's perfectly fine. This is a nice room, though.
Okay, I hope I don't stumble this. I'm still learning it, so.
No, it's perfectly fine.
Okay, all right, ready.
Okay, so, and you ready? All right, so, I guess we're back right now. My name is Degani Anton. I'm doing this podcast right now, and today my guest is?
Samantha Whiteye.
All right, it's awesome to know. So, we're here at the downtown library in London. It's a pretty nice spot, too. I never thought about this place until you brought it up, so
Yeah.
it's pretty good. But so I'm here to talk to her because we specifically want to touch on a few subjects. Now, you just want to kind of give maybe a background to yourself a little bit, just kind of tell people?
Yep, I can do an introduction here. So, Xuiwii Shoopeekal, ni non de la Napawi, ni non Giai, and la Napawi Lakawi. Hello, my name is Samantha. I am from the Lunapau Nation. It was just a quick introduction that I'm actually learning in my language class right now, which is I'm really excited actually to talk about. So one thing I can say is Kingwalau Lomwa means it's good to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I could start with my language. I'm actually pretty excited about it. So we just started an 8-week pilot course with Bruce Stonefish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's kind of the first of its kind, I guess, in a sense, because our nation, obviously, you know, we're really trying to push language revitalization right now. So
Yep.
it's like I said, it's kind of the first of its kind, and that's exciting because you know, we have people of all ages, and not only some from Canada, but actually some from stateside doing this language course. We're on the 3rd week this week. I actually have my class tomorrow night. And so far, one thing that I actually really love about it is it's not just like learning the words and what they mean. It's actually understanding where the meanings come from. So I love that because certain words, they have really deep meanings, and it's tracing it back to our creation. So in a sense, the way we're learning this course and how Bruce is going to run this course is a more decolonized way of thinking, and I really love that. So
Nice.
I can give you an example. So for instance, you know, everybody refers to us as Delaware. I don't really refer to myself as that, and I don't think I ever will again, because I'm a little bit more educated now, and it was actually named after like Lord Delaware.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it was actually named after what we call Schwanek.
Huh.
So, which means like salty person who came from the salt.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's our word
Oh.
for Schwanek. So,
Okay.
yes, and that's a very colonized title, and to categorize our people as that, I don't really agree with it, because our people and what our word actually means, which is Lunapau. Lunapau means, and I can tell you this from our course here. Lun means thought. The AA, the ow means from or because, and the pow means he or she came. So if you actually put that whole word together, Lunapau, it means he or she came from thought. It actually has a really deeper meaning than Lord Delaware.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't, you know what I mean? And a lot of people just say, oh, you're Lenape. Well, no, that's saying it wrong as well. It's Lunapau.
Oh, Lunapau.
Lunapau.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I've started to really take that on and try to change the way we're having conversations on how we identify ourselves. And I really think that bringing this language back is definitely a way for our people to connect back to their identity. And I think that's so important as a nation that was not, it wasn't like we weren't recognized. It's just we're a smaller nation. And going back into history, we actually have a prophecy that they say that you could actually go on top of the mountain on the East Coast in our traditional homelands. You could look to the west and all you would see was Lenape fires all along the coast. We were that big, and every tribe that was down there, had a dialect of our language. Our language and our people were actually referred to as the grandfathers because we are one of the oldest nations on the East Coast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so the Anishinaabe, the Iroquois nations, they were our neighbors, and we worked closely together with them, and we had peaceful relationships, and actually about our nation too, we were actually known as the peace bringers. You know what I mean? We would actually be the ones to be called in, and if there was nations that weren't getting along, we were actually the ones to go in and try to mediate a peaceful solution. We were the peacekeepers. Oh, really? Yes, yeah, because we were the oldest ones, which I really liked that, and I thought that was really awesome to learn. So, yeah, I mean, some other things in our language class that I really like, and like I said, examples of going back to learning different meanings. So, for instance, the word suklon, it means rain. Yeah. In a traditional sense, but what it actually means, and if you put it together, and Bruce can explain this word actually a little bit better than I can. He actually was explaining in the podcast or whatever when we were actually in the class actually, and he said the way the word breaks down, it actually means the weather that clears or purifies, which I was like, wow, like just the way that our people thought and saw our world back then is just so amazing. And it just, like I said, for instance, like I said, we just say rain, but our people saw rain as something completely different, a more organic way of looking at life that, like I said, that goes back to the creation. And I thought that was amazing. So to be able to learn my language in this way, instead of just, this word means that and memorize a bunch of things, I like it better. So I did buy our dictionary, and it was kind of expensive. But again, like I said, our language is kind of rare, so it makes sense. Yeah. I was looking at the acknowledgements last night, and I found something really cool. My great-great-aunt, Mattie Huff, actually contributed to building this dictionary. Oh, really? She was a speaker. I didn't know that. Mattie has passed, but I remember going to her house as a little girl, and every time I think of her, she always makes me smile because she was so funny. She had just this humor that I really can't describe unless you kind of knew her. And every time I think of her, like I said, I just smile because she was just funny. And, I was a little girl, and I always wanted to, we would go in and we would visit, and we would sit with her, and she would tell us stories or just catch up with us. And I would do that for a while, but me being a little bit of a wild child, I would always be wanting to be outside and be playing with the res dogs around us and, just be running around, you know what I mean? But like now that I look back, it's pretty cool to say that she, like I said, she helped build that dictionary, and me being from that line, I can go forward and hopefully, help bring that back, revitalize that. So yeah. That's really cool.
That is cool. So if you don't mind me asking, how are these classes being conducted? You say every Thursday, right?
Yes, every Thursday. So we actually have Esperanza. She is coordinating most of it. She's got us on a Blackboard kind of setup. So Blackboard course, I don't know if anybody's ever went to kind of schooling. I mean, I know when I went to Niagara, we had a Blackboard, and it was just for like communications and assignments and stuff. So she's got us organized there. And then there's also a platform within that you can go on and have like a conference call kind of thing. Also, like everybody's showing on the screen? Yeah, everybody links up at the same time, and that's kind of how we're doing it, just because of the distance. Because like I said, we have relations on the state side as well, because our tribe was originally from the States before we were displaced in all of the colonization movements, okay?
Yep.
So that's why we have branches in Oklahoma, we have people in Wisconsin, we have people still in New Jersey, and we have our people here in Ontario. So that's kind of why we decided to go with that, just because it was easier to get everybody kind of together on the same page. So we do it at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And like I said, tomorrow is our third week, and we have homework that we have to do. This week's homework was a little bit tricky, let me tell you. I don't know if I did it right, but I definitely did my best. So we'll see what Bruce has to say. I actually have to, I'm helping with the course as well. I'm kind of assisting on collecting the assignments, taking attendance kind of thing. So I actually have to, after we're done this podcast, I have to collect all of the assignments, hand them into Bruce, and see what he says about them. So. But yeah, so it's done online. It's the best that we could do to get everybody kind of together.
So how many students are in the class?
Well, it was kind of dependent on who wanted to be interested, and like I said, as a requirement to get into the class as well, you did have to get the dictionary. So and to be present. Like when Bruce set this up, he wanted people that were really serious about this language. So right now, I think there's maybe only 10, 11. Mm-hmm. It's small, but like I said, it's the first pilot course we've ever done. So we're all just trying to wing it, get used to the, what do I want to call it, the media platform, because we do have older people in this that are trying to join the class. So they're not as tech savvy, shall we say, which is fine. You know what I mean? The first week we had a few hiccups. Some people were late getting in because they were trying to set it up, which is fine. But I think that we did the first 2 classes. I think it's going to be better for everybody. Like everybody's kind of rolling with it. So
yeah. So when you say pilot, so this is like the very first time like you guys are actually trying this?
Yes.
And it's like mainly just done over the internet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
It is mainly, like I said, it is mainly done over the internet. But yes, it is the very first time that our nation is doing this. I know that I was reading recently on a few relations from down in Oklahoma that they were trying to get a language class going too. That was just an idea that was just thrown out there a couple weeks ago. And I think that's great, absolutely. Our language group, however, is more of the Muncie-based dialect, because that's where our people were from. We're from the Muncie kind of area in that spot. So, but they have a different dialect, or they might say things a little bit differently than us, just because of the different movements that our peoples took. So, so I mean, obviously, I wish them the best. You know what I mean? I'm probably gonna take a few notes from them as well, because I think the reason why that they wanted to do one as well is, like I said, our language is struggling to stay here. All of our speakers that were in Canada are passing, unfortunately, and I know down in the States the same is happening. So if we don't pick that up now, our language is going to be lost. Or, you know what I mean, you can have a dictionary, but unless, like I said, you understand where those words come from, or even how to read it, it's very complicated. I read the foreword last night, and our language is basically mainly verb-based, verb, action, word kind of based, and they categorize it in so many different ways that it's complicated to try to get through it. And the linguist, he did a great job at putting the dictionary together, but if you don't know much about dictionaries and you're just looking at it, you're not going to understand it. It's difficult.
Yeah, to people, it just might be words, but they don't know how to put them together.
Yeah, and not only that, but we have a different way of putting our words together. The sounds that are not in the traditional English language that we have. You know what I mean? Like for instance, our word "lunapao," that "ow," that's a sound that's in our dictionary. That's not, they can't translate it into English. Or, for example, my name, Xuiwii Shoopeekal. You know, that guttural kind of sound. They don't have a word. They don't have a sound for that in English.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you can read the dictionary, but you're not really going to know how to say the sounds of it unless you understand how the dictionary was written and how our people spoke. So it's a lot.
Yeah, I imagine, like, just hearing all the stuff you have to do for it. Yeah. But, like, I've been taking Oneida lessons, and it's the same, right? Like, well, not the same, but like there's just differences to everything. Like,
Yeah.
I know of people. I mean, I heard of people that know like Ojibwe, you know, maybe Mohawk, and then they know another language. I'm like, I don't know how they can, like, how they process that, because they're so different from each other. Yeah, like every language seems to have a different, unique alphabet.
Yes.
Like you know, verbs, everything seems to be different.
Yeah.
So like even it must be. I think it must be kind of hard to get into it at times, because like I grew up going to Xuiwii, which is a log school. So like I pretty much have an idea of like my language, my culture and stuff. But I would like to know more as usual. It's just I think it just gets kind of hard with everybody, because like I kind of fell out a little bit shamefully, and now I'm going back to it as usual.
Yeah.
So like, but like, yeah, I think it is important that we know our language, because even in Oneida we had about, I think someone's going to correct me, so they can correct me when they listen to this, but I think we had about 40 speakers, and then we went down to 30 in like a year. Oh. So like we're losing a lot of master speakers as well, and it's important for people to
pick it up.
Yeah, so but I hear people that are doing classes, not just in Oneida, Nation of the Thames, but in Wisconsin as well.
Yes, yeah.
So, but that's what I was going to ask too, that is there, like the Lenape people, is there more, like when you said they're in all these different places, are there reserves there? Or are they just like, are they just happen to be in these areas?
I think it's from what I know, they just happen to kind of be in these areas. I know that the Ramapows in like Jersey area around there, they have, I think, what they call state recognition, but not federal recognition. Like the way it works down in the States is different than us. Mm-hmm. And I actually got my brother to try to explain this to me, but I still don't understand it. So I guess for us it'd be like provincial recognition, but not Canada recognition.
Okay, yeah.
So it's different, you know what I mean? So they're like, oh, we have this, but we don't have that, and I don't understand the concept of that, because we don't have that here, you know. We're just recognized all over. I'm like, oh, you're Native, okay, you know. But so I don't know really the parameters of what that means, unfortunately. Yeah. Because like I said, it's, you know, the whole Canada-America border, you know, the imaginary border that we have, the way they do things. So it's that's what they said, and I know the ones in Oklahoma. From what I understand, and I could be wrong, they were kind of adopted into other bigger nation. Mm-hmm. Some went into the Cherokee, some went into other neighboring nations around there, because what a lot of people don't know actually was when we were moved from our traditional lands on the East Coast, we had one branch of people, like I said, they actually walked the Trail of Tears. They actually were one of the people that you wouldn't know, but they actually were on there. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how we ended up all the way in Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a long walk. So we were, like I said, we were pushed through Indianapolis. And I actually went down to Indianapolis last year, and I went to the Idyllwild Museum, and it's a Native museum, mm-hmm. Just for us. And they had this whole section just on our people. And I was floored, because I didn't, you don't see our people represented as, you know, like I said, as the Mohawks, as the Oneida Nation, as the other Iroquois nations, as the Anishinaabe, you know what I mean? You don't see us represented as some of these other nations. And so to see a whole section just on us and our history that happened in Indianapolis, I was just surprised. We were actually pushed through with like Miami territory, and they were explaining the history behind the Miami peoples, and how we were welcomed by them for a brief time before again we were pushed along mm-hmm. that long trail there. But it was really cool to see, and they were talking about our big house. They had like a little setup in this glass case of a model of it. They had our Masing masks. They had like some other Lenape artifacts in there, and they had all these, you know, these things you could read on there, and I took all these pictures. I was just so excited. But it was really cool. So it's, like I said, we kind of have a history everywhere, I guess, in the States, kind of, in a sense, because like I said, we did that big migration. So mm-hmm. That was really actually cool to find out and just see it, you know what I mean, to see it in front of you, like, you know, we were here. It's really cool.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't know that actually. It's pretty awesome to hear.
Yeah, I did a lot of research, I guess, on the history, because everybody, people were like, oh, you're Lenape. What does that mean? What is that? Well, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't really understand it, and for the longest time growing up, I actually didn't really know what that meant. You know what I mean? It took me a lot of time to do my own research or to speak with people and understand what they knew, or to start branching out and talking, and who are we as a people? What do we represent? And like I said, language classes and as well as our nation, as bringing back the big house. I can say, I'm Lenape. I'm from the big house. The big house represents this, and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really good to have that background. You know what I mean? I've heard a light version of our creation story, and they say actually our creation story takes 4 days to tell, because there's this one part where you have to go through, and every animal nation as well as medicine and tree has to not offer, but like, it could be a little wrong. I've heard this creation story lightly like 3 times. So, but there's this one part, like I said, where they have to offer what they will give to the people, to us.
Yeah.
And going through all of those things, you wouldn't think it, but yeah, it takes 4 days just to go through what everybody said they were going to offer our people to help us live coexistent, like, you know what I mean,
yeah.
with creation. And when I heard that, I couldn't believe it. I was like, 4 days, you know what I mean? And that's a long time just for that, like all of that. And it's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
So, moving on, I guess, to our identity again and our big house. So the exciting thing that's happening right now is we actually built the first skeleton, like the first frame of our big house. Our nation hasn't had a lodge, I don't know in how long. A long time. I know they do have one down in the States somewhere. And actually one of our masks in our lodge actually came from there, I believe.
Yeah.
But up here in Canada, we haven't really had a lodge.
Okay.
So Bruce and my dad, Jamie Whiteye, he built it, which is really, really cool to say, because I can say, yeah, my dad helped build this lodge, and it's beautiful. It's cedar, and then we had somebody else carve all of our missing masks. There's 12 of them on the posts, and 2 on the main post, and then we have our 2 fire pits, 1 on either side of the center post there. It's not finished. Like I said, it was just, I think we did our first kind of lodge meeting either July or August. It's exciting, because I went to go see it before we did our meeting, and I got really good things from the space, which I was excited about, because if I'm getting that, then I know it's legit. I'm not saying that it's not legit, but you know what I mean,
Yeah.
You just, people are going to be skeptical, and especially for the ones that probably haven't come out yet, and I encourage you all to come out from our nation, to come out and see it. It's absolutely beautiful, and I know it's not finished, but it's the fact that it's there.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that our people are starting to bring this back, which is monumental. I can't explain how big of a deal that is. You know what I mean? Like, we're going back to our ceremonial teachings and our way that we used to interact with creation. And like I said, we're telling our stories. We're starting to bring songs back. Everybody in there, when you go in there, everybody has a voice, and we're all equals. Everybody can share. And some things that I've learned about that was, every 4 years we would actually be inviting neighboring nations to come to our big house ceremony in October, and we would all share. We would share what happened in the year. We would share teachings with each other. Other nations would share their teachings with us, and we would just come together and collaborate and share these things. And catch up on news. So it was really awesome, because like I said, we had such a close relationship with neighboring nations, and it was very open and friendly and understanding. So when I heard that, I thought, what a great idea, you know what I mean? Like, what a great idea to bring back.
Yeah.
Right now, like I said, it's only the first couple of months that we've had this lodge and we've started going to it. So we're still trying to figure out how to do this in the right way. And as Bruce was saying, there's not a way we can do it that's going to be exactly like our ancestors did it, you know what I mean? But we can go about things still in a good way and on the right track, even if it's not exactly as our ancestors did it. You know what I mean? So still stick to the traditions, but it just might not be 100% exact.
Yeah,
you know what
okay.
I mean? And I understood that. I was a little apprehensive because I was like, well, what if, for instance, we're not doing our opening properly, or we're not doing this properly, or we're not doing that properly. But then I had to really sit back and listen to what, Bruce and the other people in there were talking about, how we were going to bring this and just start doing this. And it's a learning process for our nation, because we haven't had a big house in a very, very, very long time. So it's a very big learning curve for us all. And a couple of people in there are gifted, including myself. So knowing that, I think it's going to help us, because we do have that connection with the other side. We're able to still get some guidance from them on how to go about things. We still have that connection still. We're lucky for that. We're very lucky.
Yeah.
So, and I know that the other side, like I said, that the other spirit world is going to help us with that. So it's good to have a little bit of that reassurance going into this, because it's a big thing. It has to do with everything that our identity and we as people were rooted around. So for people that don't know anything about the big house, from what I've learned, and this is like a learning thing here, learning, our people did a 12-day ceremony, and it took 12 days. Like I said, 4 days were just dedicated to that creation story, because every time we get together, we had to tell that creation story. And our lodge is based all around creation. So each one of those masks on each one of those posts represents a moon. So every moon, and our people were very smart. We planned our entire year for every moon. So every moon, we knew as a people that we had to do certain things. So we knew that, berries grew at this time, harvest time was during this time, honey was made during this time, this was the time we did this. So every one of those masks and represents something that we had to do in our year. So the way we would go about our big house ceremony was along the lines of, we had to come in, tell a creation story, and this was all done kind of in the evening, and come in, tell a creation story, and then look at what month we were in, which we always did in October. So we'd plan the whole year around, starting from October, and it was always the full moon. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So every post, like I said, we had to do something, and then during the day, once we were done with the big house and we would go to sleep and whatever, the next day we would some people would be going out for fasts and for like vision quests. Some people were helping getting the camp ready with the feast and the food, or other tasks. And then they said that during the day, sometimes during the period of the 12 days, that the woman would actually go in there and have a council, because our nation was actually led by our women. That's a difference. We had women chiefs, I guess, in a sense, if you want to go like that, but we didn't call them that. But anyway, so
well,
it's
just like the Haudenosaunee, we had clan mothers, right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah, they I guess the better way to say it, they ran the show. So
yes. So the women, they would go in there and they would have their own meetings, and they would help decide certain things and take care of all of that. And then at night, we would all, again, go in, collaborate. We would share stories, share visions, share news, share teachings with each other, and go through what we had to do for the year, plan our entire year in a matter of 12 days. So it was that's a quick kind of rundown of our big house. Obviously, there's more to it, and I'm still learning.
No, of course. I mean, like I said, this is really educational, because like I always knew of these people, like the Lenape, but I just never knew this much.
Yeah.
And I always thought it's better to get, somebody to tell me as opposed to reading about it.
Yeah.
So like I've always liked the idea. So like this is just like, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be educational for the listeners, but like even for myself, I'm just kind of sitting here listening too. Like, that's why I'm not really talking, because I'm just like, oh, really? I didn't know that. Like,
I know I'm kind of saying a lot, but and like I said, some of this, it might need to be corrected a little bit by the other more experienced elders and people, but this is from what I've gathered and I've kind of taken in. So it is a lot. But I think, like I said, it's just the fact that I'm learning this much in the language and how we're doing things, it's a big deal because we've never had this in a long time. So it's very, very exciting. And, you know, another thing that I can share that I actually was really excited to even bring up and do was we were talking about bringing some of our traditional stuff back. So, you know, our people in the big house, they say that, you know, we would bring in certain ceremonies that were outside of our traditional big house center. So we would bring in, you know, like if people want to get married, it would be done in the big house. If babies, when they were born and named, they were done in the big house. You know, women's ceremonies coming into womanhood, done in the big house. You know what I mean? All these kind of things that happened to our people, we would do in the big house because the big house represents creation. It represents our connection to creation. So all of these things that happened in life and creation and stuff were done in the big house. And we're talking about bringing some of those things back. And it got me thinking, because we were talking about that in October, actually. You know, my birthday was actually in November. It was on the 10th there. So I thought, you know, for somebody who's into the culture, very into the culture, you know, attending these monthly big house meetings or gatherings, I should say. And I thought, you know, let's try to bring some of these things back. You know, what could we do to celebrate, you know, another year around the sun? What could we do? And it got me thinking. I went to Bruce and his brother Brent there, and I asked, you know, what could we do? I wanted to try to bring something back for that celebration of life. And they said, you know what, Sam, you can get named. And I was like, I can get named? I didn't know we could do that. And so I did. We did it. We set it up, and you know, I had to bring my own stuff, like berries. I had to bring my own feast plate. I had to do all that. I invited a friend out to come with me to witness this moment because it would be the monumental thing about this. It would be the first naming ceremony done in our lodge.
Oh, okay. So you'd be
I was the first one named in our lodge, and that's a very, very big deal for our nation because, like I said, it's the big house is new. The way we're starting to bring all of these things in is new, and when they're like, you can get named, like I didn't even think of that because I wasn't sure what we could do. But it happened, and the crazy story about that is, you know, it was November. Not a lot of our members showed up because it was very, very cold at the time. This was, you know, when we still had a bit of snow on the ground, which we don't anymore right now. It's like, you know, it's a fall day out there. But in November, around that time, we did it on the 9th. So right the evening before my birthday, which I thought was just awesome. It was a little after the full moon, but other circumstances we couldn't get together on the full moon. So we did it on the 9th. And we went in there, and the cool thing about this, you know, and I'm going to be able to look back when I'm older and just, you know, laugh about this still, is there was only 4 of us. You know, there's 4 of us in that lodge. We had both fires going. It was windy. It was blowy. Like I said, our lodge is half built, just the frame. We don't have the walls or the top yet, so it's still not finished. But man, we were out there all in the cold, bundled up, ready to go for like 2 hours if it had to be, just to finish this naming ceremony. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because, like I said, it was just the 4 of us, and the weather, like I said, it was crazy. So, but we were out there. We were dedicated to the cause. So it was really a moment. And one thing I don't think I'll ever forget was I had to, you know, say my name in all of the directions, and to the moon, to the earth, to creator. And there was one direction that I was facing, whatever, and I was just looking, and the wind was just crazy, right? And so the one fire in front of me was like blowing in my face. And that one, the mask, right, because they're all over the lodge. They're on the poster, so everywhere you look, you're looking at a mask. So I had to announce myself in that direction. And there was this moment where I could almost feel like that that spirit was like looking at me, like really looking at me. Like it was just one moment, like it was just 1 second of a moment, but I stood there and the wind's blowing the fire and the fire's lighting up his face, and I'm standing there and I'm announcing myself to him, and he's just looking at me. I can't really describe the moment perfectly, but it was big. It felt big. I felt very small, but important, you know, still like totally in that moment. It was an incredible feeling. I'm kind of a little emotional about it, just thinking about it, but it was big, you know what I mean? And it was a special thing. I don't think I'll ever forget that. So
that's pretty good though.
Yeah.
There's always those moments, right, when you have those sort of things.
Yeah.
Like I remember just anytime I go to Longhouse, I always feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I guess there's just some things you go to, so like it's just great to know. But if you don't mind me asking, was there a point in your life that kind of made you turn back to the culture and the language and everything?
Yeah, I can go a little bit into that. I guess it kind of all started back with I Don't Know More. You know, I started reading all the things and all the newspapers and you know, was reading about it, and it was disturbing because our people were out there, you know, protesting and trying to be heard, and the government just wasn't listening. You know what I mean? We were just ignored, no matter how many people gathered. But I don't necessarily think it necessarily was about the government. I think it was about the people kind of, in a sense, waking up to say this is enough. And it helped wake me up, in a sense, because I wasn't as aware of Indigenous issues then, or grassroots issues facing our communities then. You know, nowadays, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, water and it's so important, and this and that, my culture and this. But back then, you know, I wasn't. So, you know, there was this one moment where I was reading it, and it was talking about, I can't remember her name now, I'm so sorry, the woman that was fasting.
Oh, at the Parliament,
yes.
Near the building?
Yes, I'm so sorry that I forgot her name. It's been some time since I actually thought about this, so I apologize for that. Anyways, and I remember that, you know, I was talking about the sacrifice, and something hit a chord with me, because the fact that she was out there fasting for our people, I never really heard of that. You know what I mean? I know that I never heard of it. I never understood that, but it just hit me that she was making that sacrifice for our people. And I was reading about, you know, some of the issues that they were coming together for, you know, like I said, the issues of clean water and this and that, and it hit me in one moment that I was like, you know, these are our people. Like, this is my people that I've never, not that I didn't acknowledge. I knew I was Native, but like I said, back then I didn't really understand my identity. It just wasn't a thing for me. It just was different. But and it hit me then that these were my people, and in a sense we were suffering. You know what I mean? All the water boil advisories in Canada and this and that, and you know, you have Grassy Narrows and their issues with mercury poisoning, and you know, now on BC they're facing Kinder Morgan and that pipeline. You know what I mean? But it was about all of these issues all kind of at once, and that was the great thing about I Don't Know More. It was like, hey, look at this, look at the issues, look at what we're going through, and it hit me that this was a problem. And I remember sitting there, and I was actually at work at the time, and I like broke down crying, because I was like, oh my God, this is our people, and they're suffering. So I was like, what could I do? Like, how can I help? Like, I can't go to Ottawa. I have to work for a living. You know, I live on my own. I have to go to work. I can't go. I would, you know. But what could I do? There's got to be something I could do. And I ran home and I racked my brain on what I could do, you know, how I could help. And I kind of came up with this thing in my head. I know this is kind of getting emotional here, but kind of came up with this thing in my head, and I was like, you know, I could change my lifestyle. I could do something for my lifestyle and be a role model. So then and there, I kind of decided that I was going to be sober. Not that I had drinking a lot. I wasn't a big drinker to begin with. You know, college I was, but everybody, you know, when you go to college, who takes it seriously the first time? I know that seems ridiculous. But back in college, you know, I had just gotten out on my own.
Yep.
You know, young, 18, just silly. So I didn't take my college education seriously back then. So, I was kind of a partier. But in 2012, I was done with college, and I wasn't a partier anymore. So, but I thought, what could I do to change my lifestyle around or whatever? What could I do to make an impact on this movement? And I was like, I could change my lifestyle. I could be a role model. I could be sober. And I had to really think back, because how did that affect my lifestyle? And I had to kind of go back to a little bit of my upbringing. My mom and stuff, she wasn't exactly a role model. Not my mom. I was adopted, so my biological mom. She wasn't the greatest role model, we'll say, and I guess some of those things affected me or whatever. And I wanted to be better than that. I always wanted to be better than the example she set. So I thought if I was sober, some of those issues and that upbringing would never affect me again, or affect any children that I might have. I broke the cycle then and there. So I've been sober since, like I said, 2012. So it's been 5 years. This year, October, 5 years.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, that is amazing. Celebration. Woo.
Yeah.
So that was the first step. And then I was living in Toronto at this time. So a couple weeks later, there was I remember, right? I wanted to make this dream catcher for somebody, and I wanted it to be authentic. I know it seems silly, but I wanted it to be an authentically made, all authentic materials, like real hide and feathers and sinew. It had to be all authentic, made by a Native person. I don't know, but this is what I was doing at the time. I think it was for a boyfriend at the time that I was dating.
Yeah.
So he had to have something totally authentic and not those dollar store dream catchers you get. Shame on Dollarama. So I was on this mission to find all of the materials, and I didn't know where to start, because I didn't know Toronto that well at the time, because I kind of just moved there. So I was like, who could I ask, and who do I know? And I didn't know anybody in Toronto. I didn't know any kind of people from anywhere in Toronto that were remotely Indigenous. So I just went with what I knew, and I knew Native Child and Family Services. So I went there and I asked them. I was like, I want to make this dream catcher, and I need materials. Where can I go to either buy them or get them? And they were like, oh, no, you don't need to buy them. We have something just around the block here. They might have the materials that you need. You can go and ask. And they actually walked me over to the building, and it was like a drop-in center for this youth, kind of in a sense, these youth that might need some of the services that they provided. So a safe place to hang out, and they had like a board for jobs. They had a board where you could find showers, you could find legal services to help Indigenous people specifically, counseling services, like places where you get if you needed a food bank. And I went in there, and at that time, I wasn't doing well myself. I was okay, but I had a full-time job, kind of in a sense. I had, at the time when I was renting a little room in Toronto, because Toronto's very expensive. So, and I just moved there, so I just rented a little room and had my little job at the pet store. But anyway, so I went into this drop-in center to find the person that I was talking to for materials, and they had to wait. I had to wait, so I had to sit down at this table, kind of thing. And I was just looking around, and I kind of felt a little out of place, but not out of place, because these were all Indigenous people of Toronto. They were all urban from various locations, and I could tell, like I said, that the services that this drop-in center was needed. These youth. They didn't have necessarily what I had, you know what I mean? Or they weren't at that kind of spot where I was in my life. I didn't have much, but I had more than what they had, if that kind of makes sense. And it hit me again, that moment where I was like, these are my people, and they're not doing as well. So all of these kind of instances kind of pushed me to walk like on a better path. I was like, I could be a role model. I've always had a good kind of heart, and I could do something to help impact our people, to help make things a little better. So, like I said, I was already on sober, and then these people kind of pushed me start looking for answers, like, what's kind of going on and what's kind of happening right now. So that was the second instance. There was a third instance, traumatic instance, but that propelled a bunch of things all at once for me. I don't really want to go into too many details on that instance, but it was a big instance. Yeah. But shortly after that time, there was this moment, like I said, where I would, in a sense, kind of start getting. It opened things for me. Yep. It opened another thing for me, and I so much so, like I started getting visitors in my home from the other side. And I didn't understand what was happening. I had never experienced this in my life. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't even know. I didn't know. So I started looking for answers, and it was funny because I'd go on Facebook and I'd be trying to find the most ceremonial people I could find on there. And I started asking a whole bunch of questions, and it led me down this path to get back to my culture. That's kind of how this started. It started with the Idol No More, that drop-in center, and then that other traumatic event that propelled me back into this path. Yep. And since then, I've just been on the path and trying to learn as much as I can about culture. So I first started with all these teachings down from the Lakota Nation. My name, my second name, I have 3 names. My second name is actually from that nation as well. And that put a lot of the pieces together for me for a big part of my identity. And now, like I said, now that I'm named in my own nation, that puts almost a lot of the final pieces together. So it's been building. It's been a lot of time to get here. Yep. And a lot of things have had to happen to get here. So it's been a journey. It's got its lows and its highs, but I can at least say with confidence that it's been my journey, and it's been good for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you went through a lot, but it ended up to a good spot in the end. Yeah, because I think a lot of people have those kind of journeys. I've been meeting more people that tell me these kind of things, that one event took them to something. Yeah. That even though maybe it never took them right to where they need to be, but then something else led them to there finally. So now they're in a spot, kind of like you, where they're beginning to learn their culture, their language, where I do have a lot of Oneida friends, but but now I'm starting to meet more and more and more people, which I'm glad, because I remember my dad was always going around everywhere. Yeah. And he would always always go everywhere, and he would always tell me about these different nations and their traditions. And when I would ask about what about these people, he'd be like, well, maybe you should look up their dances or their ceremonies, not their dances, their ceremonies. Right. Yeah. So he would explain stuff to me, and I'd be like, oh, okay. And then when I was starting to kind of venture out more, I remember him just telling me, he says, whenever you go to another nation, he says, don't question nothing. Just let them do what they want to do, because that's their way of doing things. Exactly. I mean, there'd be a day, yes, I'd like to go to the big house and check it out and see everything. Yeah. And that's the thing, is I don't know anything, but I would just love to go and experience it. Yeah. Because I've always been going to Longhouse. I haven't did it, but I've helped out with Sundance. So I've seen what Sundance is like with the Ojibwe people. Yes. And then I've seen certain things. I've yet to go to what do you call Medewin. Yeah. I've never been to Medewin yet, but I plan to go there. But it's just always just to see, you know what I mean? Just to see other people's, because I think that's very important, is that even if you know your own culture, it's always important to see other people's, to get a perspective of everything. Yes, exactly. So I think it's always a good thing, yeah. And I like that too, that you do say you're becoming a role model. And I think that's very important, that we need more people, because then I think the reservations, to me, my own issue with them is I don't see a lot of people taking advantage of things that are out there. Yeah. So I see a lot of people, especially youth, they don't see a lot of advantages to what they could have, because there's people like you, when you're going to come down, if you were going to do classes, when you're good enough and you do classes and teachings, you would hope more people show up. Yeah. Because I've been doing cooking classes, but I was doing it with just youth, because I wanted to make sure the youth can have I thought of it as a prevention program. Yes. That they don't get diabetes and cancer, which are the two highest in our entire people's. Exactly. So but everything else too, heart disease, stroke, cancer, everything, all these stuff. Connected. It's all these things are happening, and I believe it's through nutrition. So even myself, I have a page on Facebook I have called GetRready, and that's designed to try to help. I mean, it's not just aimed for Native people. I would help anybody, but like I do want to help our people mainly.
Yes.
And through my own like Facebook page, I have a YouTube channel even, and it's all dedicated just to health and fitness. But that's how I see it too, like how you're talking. Like, I do love the culture and everything like that, but I figured I would attack nutrition.
Exactly. Everybody has the roles.
Yeah.
And one thing, like I said, I've realized learning the big house is you really see that coming together to have. It's almost like everybody that kind of went there and is going there, they had their pieces to play in creating this. You know, like me, I had a message that I held for 2 years just so I could tell it at that time.
Yeah.
You know, somebody had to get this idea to build this. Somebody else had to know how to build it. My dad had to need to know how to build things just to build this. You know, it's like it was really. There was another moment, like I said, that I was sitting in there, and you see all of the pieces come into play to create this again. And I'm starting to see that with our people. All of our people are coming together. Certain pieces are coming together to create us as a whole. So your journey, like I said, is nutrition. Mine is language and those teachings, those cultural teachings, and our voice. You know what I mean? Other people, they do other things, or you know what I mean? Everybody has their pieces to play, and it's really awesome to see role models like us coming together to complete that mosaic, if you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. Just because, like I said, everything can work together.
Exactly.
So like it's great to see that this is happening, but it's like obviously it's going to be a slow process. And I've told people that I don't think in our lifetime, young as we are going to see this to its full potential. But it's that we're at the start. Like we're starting,
exactly.
And we're getting there. And it's a slow climb, but maybe in 100 years there'll be way more speakers.
Yes.
Because like those people who will learn it will teach their children, and their children will pass down as usual, like through oral, and then it's just a cycle like we used to have.
Exactly.
Because like I always believe that it's important to understand that. I remember a teaching. Maybe there's one similar to in your culture that says. I remember the Creator told us, take what they have, but don't become them. Because as Las Loons, our white people came. We were told that they're going to bring stuff, and we should use it because it's there, but don't become them.
Yeah.
So we keep your culture, keep your language, keep your identity, but just use what they have because it's there anyways.
Right.
Like don't continue to live in a longhouse, live in the houses that are there because it's available, but still remember where you came from.
Where you remember, yeah.
Yeah, so like that's why, I mean, when I was born, my mom put my name in the government as Degania. And now that is my name I was given at the Longhouse. So I've always just used that all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just something I just like always adapted. And yeah, it had its funny moments when I was in college and the teachers were like, Anton, I'd be like, yeah, me. Because I know they're talking about me because they don't want to say my name.
Right.
But it's like I've had tons of moments. I told people if I had a book over the years, I could probably have written at least 50 pages of how many times my name was said differently.
Right.
But like, you know, it's something that I was embarrassed at first, but then just got used to. Now I enjoy it when people try to say it. And I don't really correct people if they say it weirdly. Like I'm just like, it's a fun game. By this point anyway, so.
Right.
But yeah, so like I think this is, like I said, this is way more than I thought it was going to be. Like it's not a bad thing. I'm really like, wow, this is better than I thought it was going to be, turned out. Because I'm really glad that you took over and just really just kind of just explained a lot of this stuff, because like I said, I was not anywhere near thought like I kind of knew about the people, so like I was just like, it's very educational, it's great, I'm glad people are going to be able to listen to this and just enjoy it.
I hope so. And like I said again, I was very excited when you asked, because I was like, yes, now is the time that our people can have a voice and I can help educate people on what I've learned, because like I said, you yourself didn't know half of the stuff that I told you.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff has been lost or not repeated or not spoken about, or you know what I mean, it's just kind of pushed to the side. But now it's like it's coming back, you know what I mean, and if I can help bring that back, absolutely I'm going to.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
I mean, like I said, I know our time is probably running low right now, but for sure there'll definitely be another episode, because then we can like kind of can not maybe continue on, but also kind of update too, like wow, where the big house is at, where you're at, where the language classes went. And that's the thing too I like about this is that they're knowing that there is a language class, and even though it is just online, it's great to know that people from anywhere, hopefully this will expand more.
I hope.
And people who do want to learn the language will be able to jump on it.
Yeah.
Because that'd be great, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, is that it for now then, I guess?
Yes, that is it for now. I think I got everything that I wanted to say. We'll go quick thing too. I hope if we do another episode, I can tell you the word for your nation in my dictionary. I found it. I was doing my homework last night and I found it. I don't know how to say it yet, and I don't know the meaning behind it, but I will find out. So the Oneida Nation has a word, and I'm just gonna spell it because I don't know how to say it. It's MEENGWEEW. I don't know. I'm not going to try to pronounce that because that's going to be very, very wrong. But that was our word for your people.
Oh, cool.
So there you go. Last little tidbit that I have to share.
Nice. So maybe next time we'll actually hear it.
Yeah, we'll hear it, and I hope I have the meaning on why we gave you that name. So exciting.
I mean, I remember hearing the Hurons.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard this. I'd like to get it confirmed with people, but I've heard that Iroquois in Huron means dirty people.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've been trying to tell people, well, I'll just say Haudenosaunee then.
Yep.
I mean, to be honest, Iroquois. I've heard French were calling us that anyway, but they probably got it from the Huron and thought it was like that's what we're called, and then it just stuck.
Yeah. Like those things, like I said, decolonizing our language, decolonizing our identity.
Yeah.
So I apologize if I have said that word during this podcast.
Well, it's fine. Like I said, I just try to let people know. But if somebody listening to this can tell me it's different or wrong or that's different, but that's just what I've heard and recently found out, like maybe a couple months ago. So I've just been slowly correcting people, not getting mad at them because obviously they don't know.
Well, like now I know. Going forward, Haudenosaunee.
So now we're good, I guess. So I guess that's good for now. So we'll definitely have you on next time.
Okay, thank you.
And Yongo for coming on.
Anishik.
All right, bye everybody. I'll see you next time.
Still got to be one of my favorite episodes so far. Like it was just fantastic. As you can hear in the episode, even I was not saying anything sometimes because it was just so great to listen to. But such tons of knowledge and information. It's just great to hear people when they know so much and they get to share it with you. Such a fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. It was great. I look forward to having her back on the podcast to talk about more. But I hope everyone enjoyed the episode as much as I did making it. And once again, if you want to be on the podcast, send me an email at getready@gmail.com. Getready with 2 R's @gmail.com, and we'll get something together and put everything down. And don't forget to rate and write a review on the podcast store to just get the word out. The more we get, the better we get a chance on more people finding out about the podcast. Alrighty, hope everyone had a good time, and I'll see you next time.